Are you looking for ways to keep your pets safe this Halloween? Hi, I'm Dr. Gary Richter. I'm a holistic and integrative medicine in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm also the founder of Ultimate Pet Nutrition. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 10 popular Halloween treats and items that you should avoid as it pertains to your pet's safety. Keep in mind, it's always a good idea to check in with your veterinarian if you have any questions about the health and safety of your pet. Let's face it, one of the best parts about Halloween is the treats. And while that may be true for us, it is absolutely not true for our pets. First up, let's talk about the classic caramel apple. Those are super yummy. I really like them, but they're really not good for our dogs. Particularly, they're very, very high in sugar, as you might imagine, and that's not good for our dogs. It can cause a tummy upset. It's just really not good for them. And then there's the stick that apple's on. It's a choking hazard. It can cause a foreign body that may necessitate surgery. And then lastly, there's sort of the apple core with the seeds. Those really aren't good for our pets, so it's always best to avoid letting them have that as well. So if you want to kind of have that share moment with your dog while you're having a caramel apple, take a regular apple and just cut up some slices and give your dog some apple slices while you're enjoying the caramel apple. The next treat we're going to talk about are popcorn balls. You know you like those. Popcorn itself is not bad for dogs if we're talking about just air-popped popcorn with nothing on it. That's absolutely fine, but that's clearly not the case when it comes to popcorn balls. Those are just loaded with things like sugar and butter and salt and all kinds of yummy things. Sugar is super high in calories, can cause an upset stomach, and that butter can absolutely give them an upset tummy as well. Excess salt is not really great for dogs either, particularly if there's underlying medical conditions that your dog may have, like heart disease, kidney disease, these sorts of things. If you're going to be enjoying one of those popcorn balls and you want to have that share moment with your pet, just go ahead and make some air-popped popcorn. And while you're having the popcorn ball, go ahead and give your dog some just plain air-popped popcorn, and everyone's happy. The next treat we're going to talk about are chocolate bars. Everybody's favorite over Halloween, but boy, is that a trip to the emergency room for your pet. Chocolate has all kinds of things in it for pets that are not good for them. There's obviously the sugar and the fat, which can cause upset tummies. But even more important than that, chocolate contains both caffeine and a stimulant called theobromine, both of which can cause really, really serious problems in dogs. Particularly, they can cause hyperactivity, GI upset, elevated heart rate. It can even cause seizures and death if your dog eats enough of it. So if your dog eats any amount of chocolate, it's always recommended that you give your veterinarian a call and just make sure that they're going to be safe. Always play it safe when it comes to chocolate and pets. The next treat I want to talk about are gummy worms. These are kind of funny to me because, under what other circumstance would any human want to eat a worm? And yet we made candy that looks like a worm. But much like almost every other Halloween treat, they're not good for our dogs. They're very high in sugar. They can cause tummy upset. It's really not a thing that dogs need to be eating. Just like all other Halloween candy, keep those gummy worms away from your dog and go ahead and enjoy them for yourself. The next treat to talk about are Rice Krispie treats. Boy, did I like these when I was a kid. These, like almost every other Halloween treat, super high in sugar and cause a lot of tummy upset. Dogs, not surprisingly, love these just like everybody else does. But they could lead to vomiting, diarrhea in extreme circumstances. It can even lead to a trip to the emergency clinic. Please keep the Rice Krispie treats away from your dog. If you're going to eat one of those and you want to have that moment with your dog, give them a little bowl of plain Rice Krispies, no sugar, no nothing, and let them have fun while you're eating the treat. All right, so now that we've kind of gone through all of the various Halloween treats that your dog really should not be eating, let's move into decor. The kind of things that you would have up and hanging around. Believe it or not, a lot of these things can pose a real risk to your pet as well. Now, you've probably come across some sort of animatronic gadget during Halloween, that automatic kind of crawling hand that moves across the floor. These are really not a good idea for dogs or cats. They can cause a lot of anxiety. It's not something that they're used to seeing. It can be very disturbing to them. They don't know what they are. They move in a weird way. They can make strange noises, can cause a lot of stress and really upset dogs and kitties. The next thing that we want to talk about are glow sticks. These things, you bend them, you break them, and then they glow in the dark. They look super cool. These can be real problems for dogs. Number one, they are choking hazards. There's obviously a lot of plastic there if they chew it up. And also remember, when you bend those things and break them, there's either plastic or sometimes even glass on the inside of those things. That's the last thing that we want our pets eating. Really make sure you keep the glow sticks away from your pets. You want to make sure that you don't wind up in the emergency clinic because your dog ate one of these things. The next thing that we want to talk about are scented candles. They make your house smell like pumpkins, cinnamon, yummy things of that nature. But these things actually can be a respiratory irritant for dogs and cats. Coughing, lung irritation, airway irritation, these sorts of things. So it's generally speaking best to keep them away from pets. And also, just as a candle, it's a potential fire hazard. If your dog is running around and knocks something over, with cats, anything that can be knocked over will be knocked over. And if we're talking about something with an open flame, that's a really serious potential fire risk, a burn hazard, what have you. So we want to be aware of never leaving any kind of lit candle around when pets are around, especially if they're unattended. Always err on the side of caution when it comes to these things, especially when it's a respiratory hazard, a burn hazard, what have you. So let's talk about Halloween costumes and makeup. What sort of risk does that pose to our pets? Depending on what the costume is made of, it may be small pieces of plastic, things that are choking hazards. Some of these things, if chewed on, may also potentially be toxic. Then there's also the question of makeup. That stuff is not really intended to be eaten. So again, if our pets are licking that, it can cause GI upset. And then the last thing I'll throw out there is really just kind of a stress and anxiety issue. When they see us looking different than we normally do, especially in kind of a scary way, making scary sounds, it can be a lot of stress and anxiety on our pets. Obviously, we don't want them to be frightened, so we just want to always keep that in mind when we're preparing and enjoying our own Halloween. One of the things that are really popular now over Halloween are strobe lights. It's a really cool effect from a Halloween perspective. Boy, is it something that's going to stress your dog or your cat out. Dogs and cats are such visual creatures. That sort of strobe effect could really, really be upsetting to them. That's absolutely something that you never really want to expose your dog or your cat to. It can cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and that's just not something that you ever really want to have happen. So, with all of these concerns about all the things that you can't give your dog, you might be wondering, well, what is a good Halloween treat for my dog? I've got a great one for you. It's a raw bone. Literally, we're recommending that you give your pet a raw bone, beef bone, lamb bone, something that you would buy refrigerated or frozen in the pet store or potentially at your local butcher, not the things that are sort of sitting out in the bin at the pet store. Those are too hard and your dog can break teeth on them. But if you give your dog an appropriate sized raw bone, they will be able to chew through it. The raw bone is more digestible than the cooked bone, so they can digest it. It'll help clean their teeth along the way, and dogs absolutely love it. Getting your dog accustomed to periodically getting a raw bone is actually a really healthy thing to do for them. And like I say, it's perfectly on par for Halloween, so it works out great. All right, ghosts and goblins, which one of the Halloween tips did you like best? Go ahead and comment below and subscribe to Ultimate Pet Nutrition to get even more tips and tricks to help keep your pets safe and healthy during this holiday season. And remember, your pet is like family and they deserve only the very best. I'm Dr. Gary Richter, wishing you and your pet a safe and wonderful holiday season.